Imagine a single moment, just suspended in time, capturing the very essence of human drama, betrayal, and, well, the profound complexities of faith itself.
Mhm.
A scene so powerful, so deeply etched into our collective consciousness that it really transcends mere paint on a wall. It becomes a phenomenon,
It does.
a visual narrative that's captivated minds for, what, over 5 centuries now?
Absolutely.
And this isn't just about, admiring an old painting. It's about digging into a profound masterpiece that offers these astonishing psychological insights into the human condition.
It's so much more than meets the eye initially.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are plunging headfirst into the extraordinary world of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper.
A true icon.
Our mission, really, is to give you a shortcut. Not just to seeing this iconic work, but to truly understanding its multi-layered brilliance.
Yeah, getting beneath the surface.
This deep dive will unravel its rich historical tapestry, explore Leonardo's truly revolutionary techniques, and, well, the surprising cost of his ambition.
Which are significant.
Definitely. And uncover the deeply woven psychological narratives within each figure, and trace its enduring, almost gravitational pull on art and thought across centuries.
Right.
You'll discover why this isn't merely a religious depiction, but really a phenomenon of human ingenuity.
And what's truly striking, I think, is that we're not just admiring a static image from the past. The Last Supper is a living testament, in a way.
How so?
Well, it shows an artist pushing the absolute boundaries of what art could achieve, transforming a familiar biblical scene into this universal human drama.
Okay.
So we'll explore how his creation was steeped in the intellectual ferment of the Renaissance, how Leonardo meticulously engineered every single element for maximum emotional impact.
Engineered is a good word for it.
It really is. And how, even today, centuries of restoration and debate continue to shape our understanding of what remains one of humanity's most complex visual statements.
So it's still evolving, in a sense.
In a very real sense, yes. You'll hopefully walk away with a fresh perspective on a work you might think you already know quite well.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It keeps revealing things. So let's begin our journey by truly unveiling the masterpiece itself, maybe stripping away some assumptions to appreciate its initial impact.
Where to start? The sheer presence.
Exactly. When we talk about Leonardo's Last Supper, it's absolutely crucial to first grasp its sheer physical presence and the core narrative it captures.
Right, that isn't some small canvas you'd find tucked away.
No, not at all. It's a colossal wall painting, an imposing presence. Though we'll definitely get into the specific experimental how of its creation later.
That's a whole story in itself.
It resides in the former refectory, that's the dining hall, for context of the Santa Maria delle Grazie convent in Milan, Italy.
So imagine monks eating their meals day in, day out, with this incredibly dramatic scene unfolding right there before their eyes. It becomes part of their daily life.
It must have been quite something. And its scale, you mentioned its presence.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Oh, immense is the word. We're looking at approximately 8.8 meters wide by 4.6 meters high.
Wow. Can you give us a sense of that?
Well, think about it like this. It's roughly the length of a double-decker bus and nearly 2 stories tall.
That's enormous.
It really is. So this isn't just a painting you observe from a polite distance. It's this vast panorama that completely engulfs your field of vision. It draws you intimately into the dramatic event unfolding before you.
It pulls you in.
It was designed that way, to feel as if the scene was an extension of the very room the viewer was standing in, kind of blurring the line between the sacred narrative and their everyday existence.
That immersive scale is vital, definitely. But so is the precise moment it depicts. It's not just any supper, is it?
No, it's the Last Supper. Specifically, that electrifying instant when Jesus has just uttered the earth-shattering words, "One of you will betray me."
Just think about that for a second. A metaphorical bomb has just been dropped right there at the dinner table.
Exactly. And Leonardo, with this, well, astonishing prescience, captures the immediate, raw, and intensely varied reactions of the 12 apostles to this devastating pronouncement.
It's like a freeze frame of emotional chaos.
Precisely. And this is where Leonardo elevates this work far beyond just a religious scene.
Right, it goes deeper.
While its foundation is undeniably a biblical narrative, his genius lies in transforming it into this profound psychological drama. It becomes a visual analysis of human tragedy.
A study in emotion.
A profound study of the entire spectrum of complex emotions that erupt when such a revelation hits. You see, it's a multi-layered narrative capturing not just the shock of betrayal.
But everything else that ripples outwards.
Exactly. The fear, the astonishment, confusion, anger, doubt, grief, even steadfast faith.
Hmm.
Each face, each gesture tells a crucial part of that story.
It's a masterful study in human psychology under, well, extreme duress. You really see the seismic waves of that statement spreading through the room.
Faking each apostle in their unique human way.
Yes. It's not just a religious depiction. It's a profound study of the human soul, isn't it?
Indeed. And what stands out immediately when considering this work is its reputation and the sheer complexity it embodies.
Its fame is undeniable.
It's universally regarded as one of the most complex, comprehensive, and multi-layered works, not just within the Italian Renaissance, but arguably in the entire history of Western art. Its influence is just immeasurable.
That's a huge claim, but honestly, it feels incredibly earned when you really start to dissect it.
It does.
Its significance as a striking masterpiece of the Renaissance isn't just about its aesthetic beauty or its enduring fame, but precisely because of this profound, multi-layered narrative and its incredible technical intricacy.
It rewards looking closely.
It's a painting that truly demands repeated viewing, revealing new depths and insights with each encounter. It's almost inexhaustible.
You always find something new.
So how did a work of such profound complexity and psychological depth even come to be? To truly understand The Last Supper, we have to place it within its historical crucible.
And what a time that was.
Exactly. The late 15th century in Italy was, in many ways, an intellectual and cultural furnace, a period of intense transformation, unprecedented creativity, and shifting paradigms.
Yeah, if we connect this to the broader historical picture, the 15th century in Italy truly represented the flourishing of the Renaissance. This was a highly fertile period.
A real turning point.
Definitely marking a significant and deliberate break from the dominant intellectual currents of the Middle Ages. For centuries prior, Europe had been steeped in scholastic thought, prioritizing theological dogma.
A very different worldview.
A worldview where human existence was primarily seen through a divine, often quite rigid lens.
That break from medieval dogma is absolutely key, isn't it? The Middle Ages were characterized by a more prescribed worldview where the church held immense intellectual authority.
Right.
But in the Renaissance, something shifted dramatically. It wasn't just a change in art styles, was it? It was more fundamental.
Oh, much more. It was a fundamental reevaluation of humanity's place in the universe. This period saw the powerful ascent of humanist thought. And humanism fundamentally repositioned humanity as the center of the universe, shifting focus from a solely divine-centric view to emphasizing human reason, human emotion, human potential.
A celebration of the human.
Think of it as a cultural blossoming, where individual achievement, classical learning, and the exploration of the natural world gained unprecedented importance. It was a philosophy that celebrated human capacity in all its forms.
And this wasn't just like theoretical philosophy happening in universities. It manifested vividly in these vibrant cultural centers across Italy.
Absolutely. Cities like Florence, Venice, and crucially for our discussion, Milan, truly became intellectual and cultural hubs.
Powerhouses.
They experienced what could only be described as a golden age across various disciplines. Art, science, philosophy, literature, all flourished simultaneously. It was an explosion of innovation fueled by patronage and intellectual curiosity.
And Milan specifically. Tell us about Milan's role.
Milan was a critical player in this cultural resurgence. Under the astute and ambitious patronage of the Sforza family, particularly Ludovico Sforza, known as Il Moro.
A famous name.
Indeed. It blossomed into this thriving intellectual and cultural center, attracting some of the greatest minds of the era, architects, engineers, artists.
Including one Leonardo da Vinci.
Of course. Leonardo arrives in Milan around 1482.
This brings us directly to Leonardo himself and his truly unique role within this context. We know him primarily as the painter of the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, but the sources really emphasize his astonishing polymathy, don't they?
They really do. He wasn't just a painter for the Sforza Duke's court. It's fascinating. His letter of application famously listed his skills first as a military engineer.
Really? Before painting?
Oh, yes. Then architect, sculptor, and only last as a painter. He was an inventor, a scientist, anatomist, musician, even a festival organizer. The list just goes on and on. A true Renaissance man.
A true Renaissance man, the definition of it.
And his multifaceted role is absolutely essential to understanding his art, especially The Last Supper. This incredible versatility allowed him to converge different disciplines in his works in a way that was truly groundbreaking for his time.
How did that convergence work?
Well, his scientific studies, his meticulous dissections for anatomy, his deep understanding of linear and atmospheric perspective, his intricate investigations into the play of light and shadow, even his studies of fluid dynamics. These weren't separate hobbies.
They weren't just side projects.
No, they were directly integrated into his artistic practice.
So his paintings became not just aesthetic expressions, beautiful images, but actual scientific and philosophical investigations.
Exactly.
Right.
It wasn't enough for him to paint a human body. He needed to understand every muscle, every bone, how they moved, how light fell upon them.
He needed the why.
Yes. It wasn't enough to show depth. He needed to master the mathematical principles of perspective. This is crucial for understanding why the Last Supper is so rich and multi-layered.
Because it's a culmination of all those intellectual pursuits.
A visual treatise on human nature informed by scientific observation. That's precisely it. The painting in this context becomes much more than a religious composition.
It's almost like an experiment.
It's a visual experiment exploring human existential crises, emotional responses, social interactions, physical reactions, all informed by his diverse scientific inquiries. He sought to paint what he knew to be true about the world and human behavior, not just what tradition dictated.
Okay, so while this humanist spirit was soaring, championing human intellect and emotion, there was still a very powerful traditional force in play, the Catholic Church. How did Leonardo navigate this complex, sometimes tense, relationship?
Yeah, that's a really important question about the fundamental role of art in that period. The Catholic Church actively supported art, viewing it as a powerful tool for, well, propaganda and teaching.
A communication tool.
For centuries, religious artworks were the primary visual language for the masses, a means of reinforcing religious values, narratives, doctrine within society. Art was essentially a didactic instrument, meant to inspire faith and moral conduct.
So on one hand, you have the church commissioning art to solidify faith and tradition, to convey a specific, often dogmatic message.
Right.
But then you have this surging humanism, which, as we discussed, was encouraging the exploration of individual emotions, complex thoughts, celebrating the human experience in a raw, new way. How did these seemingly opposing forces interact within a single work like The Last Supper?
That's the brilliance of Leonardo. With his, well, unparalleled genius, he masterfully navigated these two poles.
He found a balance.
He didn't just choose one over the other, nor did he simply compromise. He integrated the religious theme, the climactic moment of Christ's betrayal, with universal human experience. He made the divine relatable, even profoundly human.
Through the emotions.
Through the lens of individual emotions and reactions that any person, regardless of their belief, could understand. He showed the humanity of the divine figures.
This is what makes The Last Supper such a profound visual reflection of the intellectual debates of its time. It's not just a painting of a religious event. It's a painting about how that religious event resonates within the human heart and mind.
How profound truth shakes individual human souls.
Exactly. It's faith, but seen through a deeply human, very Renaissance perspective, where man's internal world is as significant as the divine narrative itself.
It's a remarkable synthesis.
Moving from the intellectual currents that shaped Leonardo, let's turn our gaze back to the painting itself and truly dissect its anatomy. When you stand before The Last Supper, its compositional structure is immediately striking.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a testament to Leonardo's truly revolutionary genius.
What's fascinating here is the immersive effect created by its immense scale. As we mentioned, roughly 8.8 meters wide, 4.6 meters high. It covers the entire end wall of the refectory.
Right, that scale again.
And this vastness isn't merely for visual spectacle. It actively enhances the dramatic effect, pulling the viewer directly into the event. It was painted at eye level, so as you walked into the dining hall,
You felt like you were there.
the table in the painting would appear to be an extension of the real dining tables, making you feel as if you were truly a participant, an eyewitness to this unfolding drama, rather than just an observer.
You feel like a participant, not just an observer, almost like maybe a 13th apostle witnessing the scene.
Something like that, yeah.
And at the very heart of this vast composition, there's an undeniable focal point, a magnetic center. Jesus is the absolute compositional core, isn't he?
Absolutely. All lines, all light, all figures, they all seem to lead back to him.
How did he achieve that so powerfully?
Leonardo's mastery of linear perspective is groundbreaking here. The vanishing point of the entire composition aligns precisely with Jesus' head.
Right on his head. Deliberate.
Oh, completely deliberate. It's a calculated technique, a triumph of mathematical precision applied to art. It ensures that the viewer's attention is constantly, almost subconsciously, drawn to the narrative and compositional core, the figure of Christ.
So even the architecture guides your eye.
Every architectural line, every angle of the ceiling, every fold of the tablecloth recedes perfectly to that single point, reinforcing his central pivotal role in the drama.
It's brilliant. It directs your focus without you even realizing it, creating this almost gravitational pull to the Messiah. But while Christ is calm and central, the apostles around him aren't static figures at all.
No, far from it.
They're a whirlwind of reactions, a dynamic explosion of human emotion, and Leonardo groups them in such a compelling way.
Indeed. He arranges the apostles in 4 distinct groups of 3.
Groups of 3, why?
Well, it isn't just an aesthetic choice. It fosters dynamic relationships and intense dialogue between them. You see figures turning, whispering, gesturing wildly.
Creating little subdramas.
Exactly. Little pockets of interaction and emotion that ripple across the entire length of the table. Unlike earlier depictions where apostles might just sit in a static row, here they are engaged, reacting to each other.
Creating movement.
A palpable sense of movement and conversational energy even within the static scene.
And within these groups, and indeed across all the apostles, we see an astonishing spectrum of human emotions. The sources highlight betrayal, shock, grief, anger, doubt, anxiety, astonishment.
It's all there, raw and unfiltered, a complete emotional landscape.
Wow.
That's right. Each apostle becomes a mirror, reflecting a distinct human psychological condition in response to Christ's devastating news. Leonardo uses what we can call the language of the body to tell the story.
Body language tells the story.
Through intricate details of body language, the nuances of their facial expressions, and incredibly precise hand gestures, he pulls the viewer deeply into that dramatic moment of revelation. You don't need words. The figures speak volumes about their inner turmoil.
Okay, so let's look at some illustrative examples because this is where Leonardo's genius for psychological realism truly shines. Take Judas, for instance. He's not just one of the apostles.
No, he's immediately identifiable, set apart.
How so?
Judas is depicted in a darker, somewhat withdrawn position, distinct from the other apostles. He's recoiling slightly, his body turning away from Christ, creating this visual barrier.
And physically separated.
And look closely, you'll see his right hand clutching a small bag, often interpreted as containing the 30 pieces of silver, the price of his betrayal.
Like a money bag.
His face is shrouded in shadow, a moral darkness contrasting with the light illuminating the other figures. This detail doesn't just symbolize his betrayal of Jesus, but more broadly, it represents a wider social and moral crisis.
Like corruption, treachery.
Exactly. That insidious corruption that can seep into human interaction, even within the closest circles. He's isolated, both physically and morally.
It's so subtle yet so powerful, almost a visual whisper of his guilt. And then there's Peter. He's depicted with an incredibly angry and protective stance, almost lunging forward.
Towards John, yes. Holding a knife.
Right, the knife.
Precisely. Peter, known for his impulsiveness and fierce loyalty, is leaning over John, holding a knife behind his back as if ready to defend Christ or discover the betrayer.
He's ready for action.
His aggressive posture and the way he turns toward Andrew and James embodies the very human conflict of protective instinct merging with raw rage and a desire for justice. He's the embodiment of swift, perhaps ill-considered action.
And Thomas, always the skeptic demanding proof. How does Leonardo show that characteristic in his reaction?
Thomas is depicted with a questioning raised finger pointing upward,
A famous pointing finger.
a gesture historically associated with doubt, or perhaps a desire for divine confirmation. This gesture visually represents that fine line between faith and doubt.
A very human struggle.
A common human struggle that resonates universally. It's an inquiry, a challenge to what has just been said, asking for proof, encapsulating that universal human need for tangible evidence in the face of the unfathomable.
And Philip, often seen as a more innocent or surprised figure, how does he respond?
Philip's expression is one of pure astonishment and almost pleading surprise. He points to himself as if saying, "Surely not I, Lord."
A very direct personal reaction.
He captures that raw, initial human reaction to the unknown, to something unfathomable being revealed that challenges one's very sense of self and loyalty. He's reacting with a kind of innocent, heartbroken shock.
So the overall impact of all these individual portrayals is that Leonardo meticulously rendered even the slightest changes in facial expressions and body language,
Every nuance matters.
allowing us, the viewers, to read each apostle's emotional state with extraordinary clarity. This transforms a specific religious event into a universal human tragedy, a profound drama that any human being, regardless of their beliefs, can relate to.
It's a study in collective human psychology. Exactly. This isn't just about biblical figures, it's about humanity on display, revealing the internal lives of men facing an existential crisis.
It's incredible how much emotion he packs into a single scene, isn't it? But what's even more fascinating, and perhaps a bit tragic, is how he achieved these effects.
Oh yes, the technique.
Because Leonardo didn't just paint like everyone else. This leads us to the experimental canvas he used and its unforeseen consequences.
This is where Leonardo truly departed from tradition, and it's a critical point for understanding the Last Supper today, the traditional fresco technique.
What exactly is that?
Well, it was the standard for large wall paintings throughout the Italian Renaissance. It involved applying pigment to wet plaster. This method, known as buon fresco or true fresco,
Buon fresco.
it ensured that the paint bonded chemically with the wall as the plaster dried, resulting in incredibly durable and long-lasting works. Think of the vibrant, centuries-old frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. That's a testament to the longevity of true fresco.
And those Sistine frescoes have largely retained their vibrancy for hundreds of years. But Leonardo didn't choose that proven durable path for the Last Supper, did he?
No, he didn't.
Why would he take such a risk?
He made a daring choice to deviate significantly from this established method. Instead, he used a new experimental mix of tempera and oil-based pigments directly onto a dry plaster wall.
Tempera and oil.
On drywall. Yes, effectively treating the wall like a large canvas. His primary aim was to achieve far richer tones, a greater depth of color, and finer, more nuanced details than traditional fresco allowed.
Fresco was limiting for him.
One fresco requires artists to work quickly before the plaster dries, making subtle blending and intricate details really challenging. Leonardo, however, was meticulous, often taking years to complete a work, constantly revising and refining.
He needed more time.
He desired the flexibility and extended drying time that an oil-based medium offered, enabling the nuanced fumato effects, those soft, hazy transitions he was famous for. Those are hard to achieve on wet plaster. He was seeking realism and subtlety above all else.
So he was pushing the boundaries, sacrificing longevity for a level of realism and subtlety that fresco wouldn't allow. But it came at a monumental cost, didn't it?
Yes, the unforeseen consequences were severe and almost immediate. This innovative but ultimately risky technique led to the painting's rapid deterioration.
How rapid?
The poor bond between the paint and the dry wall, exacerbated by the damp conditions of the refectory, meant that it began flaking and fading almost immediately after it was finished, around 1498.
Wow, straight away.
By the mid-16th century, just decades later, it was already described as being in a state of ruin, with its colors almost entirely faded. A tragedy, really.
And this rapid deterioration meant constant, almost Sisyphean intervention throughout its history.
Indeed. Much of the work has undergone numerous, almost continuous restorations throughout its history. These efforts, while crucial for its very survival and preservation,
They had to do something.
of course, but they've also inevitably led to a significant loss of the original vibrancy and, in some cases, a blurring or even repainting of original details by later hands.
So parts aren't really Leonardo's anymore.
It's a complex issue. It's a paradox. To save it, it had to be changed. This raises important questions for you, the listener. What does it mean for a masterpiece to be constantly changing, constantly being repainted by later hands across centuries?
Right. Can it ever truly be original again?
Or is it a palimpsest of its own history, a collection of layers?
That's a profound thought. It's a living, breathing work, in a sense, but also slowly eroding through time and human intervention. Yet, despite these challenges, despite its fragile state, the technical brilliance of Leonardo is still profoundly evident.
Absolutely. Despite the material failures, what remains still showcases Leonardo's exceptional skill. His mastery of sfumato, that unique technique of subtly blending colors and tones so smoothly that there are no harsh lines.
That soft, hazy look.
Creating a soft, hazy, almost smoky effect is unparalleled. You see it in the gentle contours of the apostles' faces, making them feel incredibly lifelike and capturing the fleeting nature of their emotions in that dramatic moment.
Even through the damage, you see it.
He achieved incredible color depth and a striking three-dimensional realism in his figures. This all demonstrates his deep understanding of the physics of light, optics, and how it interacts with form to create volumetric presence.
And you can see this in the tiny details, even now after all the deterioration and restoration.
Yes, if you look closely. Observe the soft transitions on the faces, the incredibly complex and varied hand positions, each finger, each knuckle meticulously rendered,
The hands are amazing.
and the way light reflects on the layered clothing, creating texture and volume. These are all pieces of evidence of his meticulous artistry and his dedication to capturing reality with unprecedented fidelity. He wasn't just painting a scene, he was dissecting light itself.
And beyond the figures, there's also the spatial depth he created within the environment itself, isn't there? Those windows in the back.
Crucially, the landscape visible through the three windows in the background isn't just a simple backdrop. It adds significant spatial depths to the scene, extending the reality of the room into the world beyond.
It opens up the space.
It also further demonstrates Leonardo's masterful use of atmospheric perspective, where distant objects appear lighter, hazier, and less defined, mimicking how the atmosphere affects our vision.
Making it feel real.
It makes the landscape feel real, receding naturally into the distance. In many ways, The Last Supper can be seen as an experimental laboratory for these various technical innovations,
Both the successes and the failures.
showcasing his pioneering mind, even those innovations that proved problematic in the long run.
So it's a testament to his ambition, his relentless scientific curiosity, and his sheer artistic genius, even in its current fragile state. A monument to his pursuit of visual truth.
Well put.
We've talked about the dramatic moment and the innovative, if problematic, techniques. But perhaps the most enduring, most universally resonant aspect of The Last Supper is Leonardo's profound exploration of the human psyche.
Ah, yes. This is where it transcends.
This is where it truly becomes more than just a painting.
What's fascinating here is that Leonardo goes far beyond simply depicting individual characters with unique features. Each apostle is more than just a unique personality reacting to a single event.
They become something bigger.
They are transformed into archetypes, representing the universal emotional spectrum of humanity. They embody the entire range of human responses to crisis, revelation, and the unsettling truth, making the scene infinitely relatable across time and culture.
So it's not just about what a specific historical Peter felt, but what any human might feel in that situation, the protective instinct, the anger, the loyalty.
Exactly.
And the sources really highlight how Leonardo captured the minutest psychological nuances in each figure.
Yes, he rendered even the slightest changes in facial expressions and the subtle language of their hands with extraordinary detail and precision.
It's all in the detail.
This allowed viewers to profoundly understand each apostle's emotional state, not just the dominant emotion, but the underlying psychological currents. You can read the internal conflict, the shock, the denial, the questioning, the fear,
The seeking of truth.
and the desperate seeking of truth in their faces and body language. For instance, notice how Andrew throws his hands up in this gesture of dismay and self-defense,
Like, whoa, not me.
or how James the Greater, seated next to Jesus, throws his arms wide in shock, almost recoiling from the very air, embodying profound disbelief and questioning as if asking, "Is it I, Lord?"
And this incredible level of psychological intensity transcends the purely religious narrative, doesn't it?
Completely. It elevates the Last Supper from a mere biblical illustration into a universal portrait of human nature itself. It's a profound study of us.
Wow.
Precisely. Consider the intricate interrelationships and the dramatic structure he builds through these psychological portrayals. The placement of figures, their immediate interactions with each other, whispering, pointing, recoiling.
The groups of three.
And most importantly, their dynamic relationships with the calm, central figure of Christ, all strengthen the dramatic structure of the work. The apostles are not just isolated figures. They are part of an interconnected web of reactions,
Creating that chaos.
creating a powerful, almost palpable sense of a shared chaotic moment.
You see Peter leaning into John, Thomas raising his finger, Bartholomew pulling back in shock, Andrew throwing his hands up. All these little interactions creating a ripple effect of chaos and confusion.
Perfectly contrasting with Christ's serene acceptance. It creates a palpable sense of movement and communication within a static scene, a theatricality that draws the viewer in.
It really does.
This deep journey into the human soul, this meticulous dissection of individual and collective psychological responses, is a fundamental reason why the painting remains one of the most studied and written about artworks in history.
Its appeal isn't just aesthetic.
It's deeply psychological, inviting endless interpretation of the human condition.
It makes you wonder how much time he spent just observing people, their gestures, their expressions, their nuanced reactions in everyday life, before he ever put brush to wall.
His notebooks suggest constant observation.
So how do all these psychological insights contribute to the larger philosophical undercurrents of the work? There's more going on beneath the surface, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
We've explored the layers of human emotion, the dramatic composition, and Leonardo's technical daring. But The Last Supper also functions as a powerful philosophical statement, deeply rooted in the intellectual and spiritual landscape of the Renaissance.
Grappling with some of its core questions.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the painting serves as a direct visual manifestation of Renaissance humanism.
Humanism again, how does it show that?
Well, this was a movement that fundamentally placed humanity at the center of the universe, prioritizing the worlds of reason and emotion over purely theological dogma. It was about rediscovering the inherent value and agency of human beings.
So how does Leonardo visibly demonstrate this idea of man at the center within the painting itself? It's a religious theme, after all.
It's beautifully illustrated through the profound contrast between Jesus and the apostles. Jesus is depicted with this serene acceptance of his fate. He's calm, isolated, yet central amidst the chaos.
Hey, eye of the storm.
His open, inviting hands seem to suggest acceptance and sacrifice, symbolizing his divine mission awareness and his transcendent nature. Around him, however,
chaos erupts.
the apostles create an almost explosive, chaotic atmosphere with their varied, intensely human reactions: shock, anger, doubt, fear, questioning. This juxtaposition powerfully showcases the conflict between the divine and the human,
With humanity taking center stage.
with humanity's emotional turmoil and individual reactions taking center stage, making the divine relatable through human experience.
It's like the human reaction, the individual psychological turmoil, becomes as important as the divine message itself. This suggests Leonardo's belief that art should do more than just convey divine messages, doesn't it?
Absolutely, that it should explore the very nature of existence. Leonardo believed that art should not only convey divine messages, but also visualize the full complexity of human nature, making it a platform for deeper inquiry and reflection, rather than just simple instruction.
Art as philosophy.
This painting, therefore, isn't just telling a story, it's exploring fundamental philosophical issues that were hotly debated during the Renaissance.
Like what? What are these core philosophical debates embedded so vividly in the work?
Well, it delves into the tensions between faith and doubt, a central question of the era where traditional belief systems were being challenged by new scientific and humanist inquiries.
Thomas's finger again.
Exactly. It explores destiny versus free will. Is Judas predestined to betray, or is it a choice? A huge theological and philosophical debate.
Free will or fate?
And it examines the individual versus society, as we see apostles reacting as individuals while simultaneously forming interconnected groups. Each apostle's reaction represents a different facet of these timeless philosophical struggles,
Inviting us to think.
inviting the viewer to contemplate these universal questions that still resonate today.
So, beyond the purely artistic or religious, the painting is a profound commentary on existence, on free will, on truth. And it wasn't created in a vacuum, was it? The broader socio-political backdrop of the time must have played a significant role.
Definitely. You can't separate it from its context. The volatile socio-political tensions in Italy during the late 15th century, a period of frequent wars, shifting alliances, power struggles among city-states,
A turbulent time.
coupled with the Catholic Church's immense authority over art and public discourse, directly influenced the creation of this work. The Church, as we discussed, sought to reinforce religious values through art,
Using it as a tool.
often using it as a means of social control and moral instruction in a period of change.
But Leonardo and many of his humanist contemporaries were part of this intellectual wave that was pushing back, weren't they? They wanted art to be more than just a tool for the church.
They wanted it to be a tool for understanding humanity,
Yeah, precisely.
a balancing act. While the Church wanted art to strengthen religious values and convey dogma, artists like Leonardo were simultaneously striving to make art a platform for questioning, for scientific observation, and for human-centered thought. The Last Supper isn't just an aesthetic product.
It's part of the conversation.
It's a vibrant visual reflection of the intellectual debates of its time. It shows this complex interaction where art was both supported by and subtly challenging the established authorities, seeking to explore humanity's place in the world and the internal dramas of the soul.
Even within a religious commission.
Exactly. It's a masterful tightrope walk between sacred duty and secular inquiry.
It's a testament to how art can be a dynamic space for profound philosophical discourse, even when operating within seemingly rigid constraints. It speaks volumes about the artist's subtle power.
It really does.
So we walk through the drama of the moment, the innovation and eventual tragedy of Leonardo's technique, the profound psychological insights, and the deep philosophical undercurrents of The Last Supper. But what about its life after Leonardo?
Its legacy.
How has this masterpiece continued to shape art and thought across centuries, despite its physical fragility?
What's truly fascinating here is its enduring and monumental impact on art history. Leonardo's pioneering use of linear and atmospheric perspective, his unparalleled dramatic narrative power, and especially his profound psychological depth in depicting human emotion.
It set a new standard.
It became an unparalleled source of inspiration for countless artists in subsequent centuries. He essentially laid down a new blueprint for visual storytelling.
You can trace its influence, can't you? Where do we see its legacy pop up in later periods or movements?
Oh, absolutely. You can connect its legacy directly to the dramatic lighting and intense emotionality that define the Baroque period.
Like Caravaggio.
Exactly, with artists like Caravaggio and Bernini exploring similar theatricality and human depth. It laid foundational groundwork for precursors to modern psychological portraits, where the inner life of the subject is paramount,
Focusing on character.
paving the way for artists to delve into character study. And even in contemporary visual storytelling techniques, whether in film or theater, where capturing instantaneous, authentic human reaction is key.
You still see echoes.
You can see direct echoes of Leonardo's revolutionary approach in The Last Supper. It truly is a foundational masterpiece, its innovations reverberating across time.
And as we discussed with its experimental technique, its story isn't static, it's a constant evolution. It's continually being reinterpreted and even physically reshaped.
Through ongoing restorations, meticulous research, and scholarly debates, it's never quite finished being understood.
This raises an important question about preservation and authenticity, doesn't it?
It really does. The painting's place in art history is continually updated through these ongoing processes. The numerous restorations, for instance, that monumental 20-year effort that concluded in 1999.
A huge undertaking.
Undeniably important for its preservation and for understanding Leonardo's original techniques to the extent that is still possible. However, they also highlight the inherent struggle.
The struggle to keep it real.
To maintain the original aesthetic and narrative power when so much of the original paint is lost or altered. Each restoration is an act of interpretation, a decision about what to restore, what to highlight, and what to leave.
It's a profound paradox, isn't it? The very effort to preserve it sometimes means changing it, putting a new layer on top of what was original.
Precisely. The physical deterioration of the work has led to ongoing discussions among art historians about the painting's originality and its true state.
What is the real Last Supper now?
Can a work that has been so extensively touched, repaired, and repainted over centuries truly retain its original essence? Or does it become a collective artwork shaped by generations of conservators and art historians?
Something for us to think about.
It offers a provocative thought for you, the listener. When does a restoration become a reinterpretation? And how does that affect our understanding of the artist's original vision, perhaps even adding new layers of meaning to its complex history?
That's something to really mull over, especially with such a famously fragile work. But despite all these debates, despite the physical challenges, the cultural and artistic significance of The Last Supper remains undiminished, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It continues to be one of the most visited and revered artworks in the world.
It endures.
It transcends its physical state and continues to resonate deeply within human culture. It remains an invaluable treasure and a powerful symbol, unifying the spiritual and aesthetic aspects of human history, inviting continuous study, debate, and inspiration.
Its message holds.
Its message about human nature, faith, and doubt is timeless.
So what does this all mean? Our deep dive into Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper reveals that it is far more than just a depiction of a biblical scene.
Much more.
It's a universal portrait of humanity, born at that thrilling intersection of Renaissance science, art, and philosophy. Leonardo, with his unparalleled genius, seamlessly blended scientific observation, profound philosophical thought, and the rawest of human emotions into one cohesive, breathtaking work.
A true synthesis.
It truly is a testament to the power of art to capture the complexities of the human soul.
This masterpiece of art history encapsulates not only the technical innovations of its era, but also Leonardo's tireless effort to unravel the mysteries of the human soul.
And it keeps giving.
Today, centuries after its creation, the ongoing study of the Last Supper continues to illuminate not just the evolution of art, but the very mysteries of the human soul itself, reminding us that the greatest art holds a mirror up to our deepest fears, doubts, and aspirations.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to ponder. Given its constant restoration and the layers of interpretation that have accumulated over centuries, what does authenticity truly mean for a masterpiece like The Last Supper?
A tough question.
And how does its ongoing study continue to illuminate not just art, but the very mysteries of the human soul centuries after its creation?
Something to keep thinking about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this journey into Leonardo's Last Supper has given you a fresh and profound perspective on this incredible, enduring work.